Hello, everybody, and welcome to the October 30th, 2018 edition of the Ephrom Josine Show. I am your host, Ephrom Josine. And, ladies and gentlemen, I don't even know anymore. Because just before the midterms, I mean within a week of the midterms, President Donald Trump has decided the best idea possible is to sign an executive order to amend the 14th Amendment to get rid of birthright citizenship. Okay, a few things. Number one, you can't do that with an executive order. That's what a tyrant does. You actually have to amend the Constitution if you want to amend the Constitution. But second off, what exactly is the alternative to birthright citizenship exactly? No, seriously, I don't know it. I mean, we saw with DACA that the president is apparently just allowed to declare previously legal immigrants illegal. So, now what? Is Donald just gonna randomly say, listen, everybody, if you look at me wrong, you're not legal anymore? That's basically what he's doing. I mean, previously, the idea was, oh no, we can't do that. We can't touch it. If you're legal forever. Now Donald Trump is just saying, no, you're illegal now because we said so. What? Oh, and remember also, doing it the other way around is actually a Democratic conspiracy to get more votes. But it's not a Republican plot to get more votes when they do literally the same thing in reverse. However, everyone's favorite, I don't even know what he is at this point, Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, owner of the seat previously owned by Strom Thurmond. Fun fact. Recently said he'll introduce legislation to make this permanent. Kind of pointless to do it right now when the president's already signing orders about it, but okay. Just for the extra laugh, here's a Louder with Critical article by Courtney Krishoff about it. Because when you want good content, you go to Courtney Krishoff. I know we've covered her tons of times in the past, but she's kind of wrong about everything, so it's very easy. We've got 1 week until the election. Congratulations, Courtney. You know how time works. Which means everyone running for election or not running for election is ramping up their efforts in the final push for who controls the House and Senate. As Democrats and Republicans battle it out for our votes, thousands of migrants, why did you put migrants in quotes? That's what they are preparing to invade the southern border. Yes. And then they will immediately vote in Texas. The state with the strictest voter ID laws in the country. This doesn't make much sense now that I think about it. Trump, love him or hate him or have little opinion on him, largely took the nomination for president because of his early campaign statements against illegal immigration, as opposed to the very prominent pro-illegal immigration Republican. I'm sure one exists. It's actually funny because you know who was the softest on illegal immigrants out of everyone who ran in 2016 on the Republican side? Lindsey Graham. Illegal immigration is, from where I sit, a largely bipartisan issue. Plenty of leftists are against illegal immigration, despite what the media tells you. With Senator Lindsey Graham say... now this is Lindsey Graham speaking. Finally, a president willing to take on the absurd policy of birthright citizenship. The United States is one of 2 developed countries in the world who grant citizenship based on the location of birth. We're also the only industrialized country without universal health care. What's your point? The policy is a magnet for illegal immigration. It's not illegal if they're legal out of the mainstream of the developed world and needs to come to an end. In addition, I plan to introduce legislation along the same lines as the proposed executive order from President Donald Trump. She then gives a brief summary of the 14th Amendment, and then she says this, sidestepping how abortion deprives any person of, oh God, do you have literally any other thing you want to talk about? You ever notice that? How it seems like every conservative commentator has to stop every 5 minutes to talk about how pro-life they are. Like, for God's sake, I have never met an individual who is as obsessed with their policies as pro-lifers. I swear to God. The amendment is very clear on how those born in the United States are citizens. So ending birthright citizenship is going to take a lot more than a pen stroke. Okay, Courtney. That so far is fair. Now, anything else you have to say? Let's see. In order for Lindsey Graham, Trump, pick your politician, to end birthright citizenship, a constitutional amendment would be needed to pass by 2/3 of the House and Senate, then ratified by 38 states. Okay. Yes, amending our Constitution is a big darn deal. Again, so far agree. It shouldn't be easy to change our Constitution. That's by design. Is it possible to add another amendment? Of course, we've seen it done before. Whether or not this is a political move to drive more people to the polls or a real plan, I'm not sure. Certainly making changes to what constitutes an American citizen would end anchor babies. But so too would the sensation of giving benefits to everyone with their hands out. We don't. Like, for God's sake, in order to be on welfare, you have to be, and be an immigrant, you have to have lived in this country for at least 5 years. I am sick of this lie that you can just come over here, take a naturalization oath, which probably don't even think exists, and the next day get welfare benefits. That's not how this works. That's never been how this works. That's never been how it worked since the creation of the welfare state by Johnson. You know what? I don't agree with everything in that Khrushchev article, but it was actually surprisingly neutral. I mean, Louder with Crowder is known for being horrendously biased, mind you, so I didn't expect much. And yeah, there were some horribly unfunny pot shots, but... oh no. Andrew Klavan released a new Lefties ABC dictionary today. This one is on K, which stood for Ku Klux Klan. I'm scared already. Let's watch.
K. K is for Ku Klux Klan.
Technically, that's 3 words, not just one, so it would need to be 3 Ks. In fact, it's 3 Ks that stands for Ku Klux Klan. That's why they're called KKK. But I'm nitpicking.
The Ku Klux Klan is an organization founded by Democrats after the Civil War in an attempt to overthrow Republican state governments in the South in order to reestablish the Democrat policy of white supremacism.
A little bit of a simplification, but I don't know enough about the history of the Ku Klux Klan in order to know exactly what is wrong there, but that is very oversimplified. More or less, the horrible, violent aspects that we associate with them today didn't really start until around the 20th century due to a movie called The Birth of the Nation, which depicted the Klan as heroes, and as such, they actually acted like that. They were still bad beforehand, mind you, but not as bad, although, to be fair, It's pretty hard to be worse than the mid 20th century Ku Klux Klan.
The Democrat Party was founded by former slave trader Andrew Jackson
And Union General and Republican President Ulysses S. Grant owned slaves. In fact, he was the last president to own slaves, and he was a Republican. What's your point?
around 1828. As the issue of slavery began to divide the nation, the Democrat Party fought to preserve slavery in opposition to the new anti-slavery Republican Party.
You know, it's gonna be kind of weird when the Daily Wire, who I think are friends with the guys who make those politically incorrect guidebooks, have to clash with the fact that neo-Confederates are in their party. Okay, nothing particularly wrong so far.
Led by Abraham Lincoln.
A little nitpick, but Lincoln wasn't really the leader. He was just someone who got the nominee. In fact, he was actually a Whig for most of his political career. But they never tell you that part.
When Lincoln won the presidency, the Southern Democrats were afraid he would outlaw their slaveholding. They therefore seceded from the United States.
Didn't you complain like 10 of these ago that the federal government is denying states the right to not allow gay marriage and ban anal sex? And you're using the exact same logic these people used. And my response would have actually been very similar. Sometime for freedom to work, we have to determine state governments can't do some things. I've had the same consistent response throughout all of history. You haven't.
And the Civil War began. When the Republican Freedom Forces of the Union defeated the Democrat slavers of the Confederacy, blacks were freed from their chains.
Fun fact. Do you know how many white people owned slaves in the Confederacy? 1.6%. And do you also know how many free black people owned slaves? 25%. Oh yeah, there were free blacks, by the way. Typically, because by this point, the slave trade wasn't really going on anymore. So anyone who had slaves more or less inherited them. That's still not good, mind you, but it's a little bit more complicated than what Clavin is talking about here. Anything else?
The Democrats formed the Ku Klux Klan and established anti-black Jim Crow laws in order to prevent the former slaves from enjoying their newfound freedom. Even into modern times, Democrat segregationists like George Wallace and Bull Connor.
Okay, a few things. One, these aren't modern times. George Wallace died 20 years ago, and Bull Connor died almost 40 years ago. In fact, over 40 years ago. Nearly 50 at this point. That's not modern. But even then, I just also want to point out real quick, Strom Thurmond and Jesse Helms outlived both those guys, both in terms of, well, life and having a political career. And you want to mention who the Klan endorsed in 2016? Oh, and for that matter, you want to mention Donald Trump's father's connection to the Klan? You don't you?
Fought against the civil rights movement led by Christian Republican Martin Luther King Jr.,
who was also a socialist, supported Planned Parenthood, highly anti-war. Honestly, the only thing he was really conservative on by today's standards was the LGBT community, or specifically homosexuals. And yeah, he lived in the early 60s. That's to be expected, honestly. That was back when homosexuality was still a mental disorder. Or was still classified as a mental disorder, excuse me. So yeah, that's kind of expected. He also did own several guns, although gun control is really only more of a centrist position as opposed to a far left position, as most of the far left also have this weird obsession with guns, it seems. I'm just saying, I think it was actually Marx himself who said that the proletariat should always be armed. But I'm going on a tangent.
Although the Ku Klux Klan is now in disrepute among Democrats, modern Democrat policies.
Can I just, by the way, point out that you are calling all black people who vote for Democrats stupid and racist? How dare you, sir? Clearly, you are a racist. Is that what Candace Owen says? I've stopped following her.
Such as welfare.
Can I just point out how it's kind of racist to say all the black people are taking advantage of welfare, now us good white people, we don't do such a thing?
Sexual liberation.
That's not a